Hello and welcome to entry 2 in the property development vlog. So, before I give you another update again, like I said in the last one, even though that was recorded a fair bit before uploading it, I just kept delaying it. But I didn't want to just do one like every week or every day. I wanted to do one when there was actually updates. So there's a few updates now. So went to look at like a bunch of different properties, like 10, 15 or so, since I actually recorded that first one. Not since I uploaded it, but since I recorded it, because that's obviously the comparison. And made offers on two of them, and still waiting to hear. I'm I'm gonna say they're not gonna get accepted just because it sounds like they're on the lower end. People were just bidding up pretty high, so that's obviously the other thing. Is that though the markets aren't as crazy as they were a few months ago in the summer when I actually got this house with my wife, the one we live in, it was a lot crazier then, and obviously we started the process in May, June. And obviously last year, like last summer after the first lockdown, they were pretty insane as well. So things were going like that. They're not going as fast, but the offers are still coming in higher than probably they would otherwise. So one of the things I'm looking for, so I've got this little spreadsheet open here, is ideally a a ROI like of 7%, or rental yield. The rental yield will be 7%. So if I put 7 here, turn that into no, there should be 0.7. Sorry, that'll be 70. 1 second, 7%. Okay, so and if we have a purchase price, and like some of them were 100, 110, 120, that sort of range. If I say 120. My in the other things feel like I'm in the American keyboard for some reason. Switches every now and again. So £120,000. So that would mean that I would need to get gross rental per annum, which is per year, would need to be equal to this times this, so you need to be 8,400 a year, and gross rental per month wouldn't just need to be simple calculation, this divided by 12. Obviously we can go on per week as well. I know some places, especially if you do HMOs, they might say rent per week even though you're paying per month, so that's the way they might actually say it. So if you want to go a step further, then you might say equals, I mean, it depends on how you would want to do this calculation. If you divide it by 4, you get 175. But technically, if you're saying a month, there's 30 days in a month. Obviously, some months have more, some have less. But there's 30 days in a month. So if you do it the other way of, let's say, the per month amount divided by 30, which is 1 day, times by 7, gives you a slightly different amount. But again, I'll just do the divide by 4, keep it simple. So I'd say these two are the more important ones to look at compared to this one. And obviously these two are also very important to look at as well. 1 second, what I'll do. Okay, so that was the situation. And I was looking to put a 25% deposit down. So if we look at the deposit, let me just move this down a bit. Deposit equals this times by this, so £30,000. And obviously if I could get it at 15 to 20%, that would be great, so I would have more money left over to go towards the next property, for example. But this is pretty typical, so that's what I was planning, in terms of what I'll do my figures planning on. And so if you look at it like that, then your gross rental per the investment put in, so the gross rental per annum, so this is gross per gross for property price, and we'll do another one. This is in many ways more important. Gross for amount invested, and I'll cover why this is arguably the more important one. Gross rental per annum. Let's go. So I'll fix some of these values onto it. I'll do $. Okay, so I will. And this is the only one I should have to change. B8, it'll be B4, no, B3, C4, C4, explosive, C4. So, okay, so the gross rental per annum, and sorry, no, that's the different way I want to look at it. So if we was to get these figures, if we was to get these figures, then it would basically mean that we have equals this divided by this times by a percentage, or if I make it a percentage, so it's more the equivalent of a 28% return. And the reason is because this is the money that you've invested. We'll cover stuff like solicitor fees and other fees, and I'll factor them in a second. So yeah, this is basically what I've been looking at, and obviously my return on investment rental yield that I want gross of property price is roughly about 7%. If I can get higher, fantastic, but 7 is generally the minimum that I want to have a look at, try and get. So why is this more important in many ways than that one, in my opinion? Because if, let's say let's just say 30 grand is everything that you put into it, the 30 grand price, if let's say you put 50% deposit down and you put in 60 grand, if the gross rental, because it's really relative to the actual property, not how much you're putting in, then you're technically getting less for your money because it's what you put in, essentially. You can think of it another way. If, let's say, you and a friend buy a stock, let's say you can't afford a stock, and let's say something like Amazon, which trades at, was it like $3,000 now? $3,500 now. Let's say it's a bit too much, so you go halve these just to buy one stock with one of your friends, and you put in what, 1,700, 22 and 12 cents. And so let's just call it 1,700 just to make things easier. If you put 1,700 each, then the amount that it's increased, you can't look at it relative to the total value. It's relative to your value because you're only getting half of it, for example. But the other thing is, this 50% that I've increased this calculation doesn't factor that in, but this one does. So there's less, rental yield there. So that's obviously a very important one. But what that basically means is 28% per annum. I'm getting 28% in just under 4 years. I will get my initial investment back, assuming not having to do any remortgages where you're having to maybe pay extra fees. You're not having to do any extra. Obviously, this doesn't factor in stuff like tax as well. But ignoring that, you'll get your money back. So other fees. So I'm just gonna say solicitor fees, put it at £1,000. Let's say there's other sort of fees. What are those? Solicitors. I've got a good accountant, a friend of mine who does it really cheap, so it's negligible. So I can ignore that as a fee. Solicitor fee, I'm trying to think what the fees are though. I'll put a K. 1,000. So you will just get added to that, and then these percentages will get slightly dropped down. I'll remove that here for now because I'll probably do a separate, property development vlog where I'm covering this in more depth. But yeah, that's basically, I was looking at a bunch of properties, invested. I offered on a couple. Don't think I'm going to get the offer for the simple reason of it sounds like they're on the lower end. And I went to see another one that was literally fully gutted. The what's it called? The carpet had been lifted off. The wallpaper, all the walls, it had been gone to bare bone. The pan of the hole where the water tank was, it was like a kid, like a 19, 20-year-old that was taking me around. The family member, apparently somebody had died, and they was going to renovate it themselves, according to him. Then they decided to sell it because it was too much work because they was all working. And apparently the water tank exploded. This was a bit odd to me. The actual wiring for the electrics, because the carpet had been lifted, there was wire underneath where the carpet would have been, or flooring, or whatever you've got there, and it was sort of grooved into the floorboards. And I mean, I'd never seen that. But this game was an old house. They said they had it rewired in the 90s, but I thought even then that's a bit, that's a bit odd for me. I would expect it to be running through the walls, through the skirting, or something along those lines, or even maybe under the what's it called? Because if you just whack down carpet, okay, you whack down underline, you whack down carpet. I mean, if you was to potentially drop something heavy enough, or even when you cut into the carpet to lift it off, you can, if you don't know, you could easily cut into that bit. Because I recently had the carpets changed in the current house I live in, and me and my dad, we tore the carpets up, and we got, standing off box cuts reach, and we were just ripping them up. We wasn't really thinking underneath, what's underneath. It's like it was a floorboard, you scratch that, it's not really the end of the work, that's covered anyway. It's not going to really damage it structurally. What if there was wiring? So I thought that was a bit odd. And they wanted 75,000 for that one. Similar ones in the area were only going for about 100, maybe a tad more. And it would require, I mean, if you did it on the cheap, you probably could do it for 10 to 15k, but to look nice as well. And then it's like, you're not getting much profit. So unless you're doing a buy, refurbish, rent, and refinance, so if you're getting the money and then renting out, that's fair enough if you want to go down that route. But for something like that, I would have looked at it as a flip. And if I wasn't going to be renting it out, so I'm open to that sort of stuff. But the money that I would have got out of it would have been negligible. So I was like, nah. So I let that one go. There's another one I'm viewing tomorrow. That one's pretty bare bone as well. That one's a fair bit cheaper, and I'm gonna see what this one's like. It's even more bare bone. By the looks at the pictures, there's not even walls. There's just the studs, where the walls would be. So like this, it was an old building, the one I went to visit last week that I'm referring to, but the walls were still there. Like they just needed replastering, painting, or wallpaper, that sort of stuff. Whereas in the images on this, it just looks like there's the image where there's the bathroom or the toilet, and it's a stud, so you can see into it. But the toilet's there, from the sink is there. Again, obviously, I'm gonna have to check if it's operational. Obviously, I'll see that tomorrow. That'll be interesting. I'm gonna inquire about some more. Look at some more. Actually, what I'll probably do, create another property development vlog. Maybe the third one I might do as in the fundamentals that I look for, or I am currently looking for. This is my first property, and I'm sure those fundamentals will change. So the fundamentals that I'm looking for, I think that'll probably be a good thing to share. Plus, also somebody might have something important to say, have a look at this, or this one actually isn't as important as you think it might be for sort of properties you're going for. Yeah, that's it. Property development vlog number 2. If you have any questions or you want to sort of help out, or just get into the discussion, feel free to join the Discord group. There's a link in the description, and I'll see you in the next property development vlog, or one of the other thousands of YouTube videos that I've uploaded.